Welcome to our continuing series of virtual voices focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and hosted by World Information Transfer. Today, we have presentations from the President and the Assistant President of United Help Ukraine. Maryna Baydyuk is the president, and she has dedicated her career to advancing scientific research and humanitarian support for Ukraine. She was born in Kyiv, Ukraine, and pursued medical studies at the National Medical University before continuing her education in the United States, earning a Ph.D. in Pharmacology from Georgetown University. As a research professor at Georgetown, her work focuses on central nervous system function and repair. Since 2014, Baydyuk has been integral to United Help Ukraine, a grassroots organization supporting Ukraine's humanitarian and medical needs. Under her leadership, United Help Ukraine provided over 60 million in aid in 2022 to Ukraine and reinforcing Ukraine's resilience and advocating for its sovereignty on the global stage. Our next presenter is Dr. Anna Yabluchanska. She is a board member and a medical aid program director for United Help Ukraine. Dr. Voluchovska has been dedicated leader at United Help Ukraine since March 2022, where she served as a board member and oversees the medical aid program. Her academic background includes a medical degree from Kharkiv National University and a public health. Our next speaker will be Dr. Anna Yabluchanska, who is a board member and medical aid program director for United Help Ukraine. Dr. Yabluchanska has been a dedicated leader at the United Help Ukraine since March 2022, where she serves as a board member and oversees the medical aid program. Her academic background includes a medical degree from Kharkiv National University and a public health degree from Emory University in Atlanta. With a career spanning public and private sectors across Ukraine, Georgia, and the United States, Dr. Yabluchanska brings invaluable expertise to her role. In addition to her work with United Help Ukraine, she is involved in cancer research at the international organization. Over to you, Ms. Baydyuk.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maryna Baydyuk, as Susie just introduced, and I'm the president of United Help Ukraine. I'm also executive director of this organization. And I will start by thanking all of you and, of course, WIT UN conferences for inviting us for this webinar. We would like to talk about our work, and of course, we welcome all questions from the audience. And we have a few people here who might be interested in learning how organization became big and very productive. We'll try to share our experiences. But also, I welcome questions about what's going on in the US in terms of the support for Ukraine. And Anna will also say a more detailed description of our medical aid program and how we work to support hospitals in Ukraine, but also support defenders of Ukraine with tactical medicine and training. So United Help Ukraine is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. How did we start? Back in 2014, it was just a group of activists that started protesting the war in Ukraine. We started even protesting before that when Maidan and Heavenly 100 happened in the winter of 2013, 2014. Just a group of volunteers, just a group of activists coming together trying to help Ukraine back in March of 2014 when Crimea was taken. And that's when we, all of us, and I see a lot of Ukrainian names here, so I'm sure for many of you, this is when the war started in 2014. And for us, it was very important to get a status of nonprofit organization, which we did in 2014. And then since then, we were a relatively small local organization up until 2022. We quickly decided that we will work on 4 major initiatives. One was helping Ukrainian defenders. Back in 2014, if some of you remember, Ukrainian army was definitely not where it is right now. We were helping with everything, from uniforms to boots to tactical medicine on smaller, of course, levels. And we also we wanted to help defenders as much as we could at that time, and we continue to do so. We are recognized as a charitable organization of 2023 in the category of defense of Ukraine, in Ukraine. And since 2014, of course, our programs grew in defenders, and we continue to support them with tactical medicine. We provide training, we provide drones, we provide evacuation vehicles to help defenders in the front lines. Second program, and Anna will talk more about it, it's our largest program at the moment, is medical aid. We support over 200 hospitals, and this program became more diverse than we first intended. We support children and families with psychological aid. We help rehabilitate wounded with not just, we treat them with prosthetics, we help them receive prosthetic devices, we help with treatment, we support their rehabilitation through sports and other activities. I just want to tell you that recently, just a few days ago, we had a team from Ukraine, 11 veterans and also active army soldiers who came to Washington, D.C. to participate in the 49th Marine Corps Marathon. And that is the largest marathon in the U.S. Over 30,000 people participated and ran in this marathon just a few days ago, last Sunday. And this group of wounded, some of them are double amputees, some of them amputees, double amputees with severe wounds. They came together as a team. We had a couple of other teams as well from Ukraine. It was very touching and very emotional to see them run 10K, and American soldiers, they were spread throughout the marathon course. They were cheering for them, fist bumps, saying Slava Ukraini, and that was really great experience. So we continue to support adaptive sports to help rehabilitate soldiers in Ukraine. And this is our second medical program. This is second program medical, and it's the largest, and Anna will tell it in more detail. The third one is humanitarian aid, and we help people that are in need, especially those who are internally displaced, people with disabilities, people who are now on newly liberated territories, the occupied territories. And this program helps communities, and we serve also underprivileged, of course, population. But we try to have our programs in more sustainable way. What do I mean by that? For example, we have a couple of programs where we put the water filtration systems where it's needed. We help with seeds. Last spring, we distributed 250,000 seed packages in rural areas, and those areas that would have farming communities. And with this humanitarian aid, we of course help communities, centers, resilience centers. And it's a big task, but also it's very important to help civilians as well as we help defenders, because you all know they are in great need as well. And the fourth program that we have is raising awareness. And this is, again, as I said before, this is how we started as an organization. And with raising awareness, I know a lot of Ukrainians do feel fatigue of the world in terms of what's happening in Ukraine. A lot of Ukrainians think that there's not enough help. We say the same thing here. We advocate for Ukraine. We advocate for Ukraine to get more weapons, more support. And as an organization, we're a founding member of American Coalition for Ukraine. We founded this coalition back in May of 2022. And that coalition now has over 100 organizations, and we have 2 summits a year. Those summits bring 500 delegates to Washington, D.C. from 47 states in the U.S. They come to DC, and their task is to go to their representative offices, to congressmen and women and senators, and advocate for Ukraine. We have different messages each summit. They come with a common goal to move forward some of the legislations, get more support of congressmen and senators to sponsor those and vote for those legislations that are concerned about the situation in Ukraine. The latest victory we had in April of 2024, when there was a huge bill, supplemental bill on the table, and it was stalled for 6 months in Congress. We were there just a week before, and again, that was we had over 550 delegates from 47 states going to the offices and pushing the congressmen, the representatives to vote for that bill. And finally, a week later, the bill was passed, and it was passed very quickly and signed to law by the president, and that was a huge success. Of course, there was a lot of work that was done behind the scenes. It's not only the American coalition that was pushing the Congress, but there's a lot of work, and we, as an organization, also work together with the Embassy of Ukraine. We communicate on a regular basis. We support each other in each other's work. And I know that the embassy also has done a terrific job advocating and continue to do a great job advocating for Ukraine. And what in raising awareness, what we also find inspiring is that it's not just Ukrainians who go and talk to their representatives who come and are part of this coalition. We probably have 40 or more % of Americans, just American citizens, who think that Ukraine is definitely in the interest of the United States, and they're advocating for Ukraine to receive more weapons and monetary and economic support from the U.S. government. So it's not just Ukrainians here in the U.S. who are pushing hard and supporting and raising awareness and keep Ukraine on the radar for the politicians, but it's also ordinary Americans. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about right now is the time for the US elections. It's a challenging time. And again, Ukraine's future will also, a lot of people think that Ukraine's future will depend on the outcome of the elections. So those 4 major programs that Unite Help Ukraine is providing support for Ukraine. We, in my bio, Susie was telling it was 45.5 million we deployed in 2022. And since that, up to date, we've provided aid in the amount of over $70 million. So just our organization, we've from a small organization, we've become quite a large one, providing, again, over $70 million in aid. And people often ask us questions like, who are your donors? Who are the ones who support you? How do you get the support? And it's a lot of support, again, comes from ordinary Americans. We receive letters from kids selling lemonade or giving us their allowance money in little envelopes saying, I want to support your organization. Please send this money to Ukrainian children. And it's very touching to receive $5 bill. And it's as inspiring as receiving $1 million check in our mail. And those, and we have a lot of students who come to volunteer for Unite Help Ukraine, who raise awareness, who help us with our projects, who also raise money. They advocate for our organization and Ukraine in general. And we have so many stories. A couple of years ago, it was 2 years ago, we had a high school student. She came to us through Ukrainian embassy, and she said, I want to I now volunteer and teach her peer in Ukraine. I teach her English through English classes online. And hearing what her English friend, for her Ukrainian friend was telling her during those English lessons, she said, I really need to do more. So she gathered her parents, community, and they had a fundraiser for United Help Ukraine. At that time, they raised $5,000 or $6,000. And it was a great, successful event for the community, for American community, for our community as well. And those stories continue. We just recently had another woman who came to us a couple of months ago, and she said, I want to do a fundraiser. I want to raise funds. I'm supporting right now a Ukrainian family, but with my connections, my network, we can definitely raise more money. So we had a small fundraising event with Ukrainian food, music, and she actually, the family that she supports is for girls, for sisters, and that was the first time they got reunited at that event, because all of them live in different places. And for that event, 4 of them came together. It was such an emotional night, seeing all four sisters finally, after 3 years of war, reunited. It was really it was great to see. So those stories continue. Of course, we also have foundations, and the support, what we see from as an organization, the support continues. So people here in the US, yes, Ukraine is not on the news often. However, we keep telling them that support is much needed. So so those are just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. I really hope you can have some questions for us. When maybe more specific questions, we'll be happy to address them. And I will give the floor to Dr. Anna Yablochanska, who is our Director of Medical Aid Program. And she'll tell you more about what we do in this initiative. We can pause for questions, maybe, for me. Or
no, we usually get all the questions, and most of the questions, many of the questions are from my students in Ukraine.
Okay.
So that's where you'll be receiving most of the questions.
Great.
But anyway, thank you very, very much. It was fascinating the way you've grown your organization and what you have done, and I hope that you will continue doing it to be as successful as you are. So let's move on to Anna Yablochanska.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Durbak, and for having us here today, and for opportunity to talk about our efforts to support Ukraine. I joined United Help Ukraine in March 2022, like early dates after the war started, full-scale invasion started. And at that time, one of the major activities United Help Ukraine was doing for many years already was providing tactical medicine to our units, because this is something that helped save lives of our people. And in 2022, we all know that a lot of people, like by their goodwill, went to army. Those people who never served as any kind of military personnel, but had to leave their homes and go out and defend their homeland. So the tactical medicine was one of the main focuses for us. It continues to be since full-scale invasion, and we providing all types of supplies that we provide to the units across all front lines. And we understood that it's not just enough to give the tourniquets out. So we need to really train people how to use this, because only if you can do this qualified, if you can do this like because when it's an emergency situation, person experience pain, fear, stress, everything should be done automatically. So that's lead us to start running a school for tactical medicine. We currently have a school which is in Kyiv, and now we're opening a new location in Lviv. We have over 30 trainers, certified trainers, who train tactical medicine for the soldiers, for combat medics, and for medical personnel who are working on the evacuation vehicles, providing advanced medical aid to the wounded patients. This really, currently we have up to 1,000 people a month being trained in our schools. And we truly believe that this is really helped to save lives. And what we figure out that it's not just enough to give out tactical medicine, but to provide all other medical assistance during all chains of evacuation and support hospitals, because hospitals became overloaded with wounded and they didn't have enough supplies. Even in the better times prior to the war, there was logistics in the hospitals was quite complicated, and hospitals were always under-equipped with supplies and equipment. And now, when number of patients increased significantly, this became a huge issue. So we started delivering medical aid, humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And we are running humanitarian warehouses in Kyiv, where we deliver our aid and distribute among the hospitals. So we currently have in our list over 200 civilian hospitals who are working with us on a routine basis, which we supply them with everything they need. Also, we started working with the commandment of the health services of the SU, of the army. So through this way, we are supplying military hospitals as well, because they are overwhelmed. We are providing evacuation vehicles, and we completely fully equip them as well. So when we bring ambulance to the unit or to the hospital, it comes fully equipped and is able to provide all full-scale medical services in this vehicle. And also we train personnel who can work in there. Additional to that, we figure out that hospitals experiencing difficulties with triaging the patients. So when there's this huge surge of wounded, it's very hard to figure out whom to serve first. So for a year and a half, we were training frontline hospitals for mass casualty events preparedness plan. This included both as triaging the patients, providing medical services, and also it included trainings for the hospital management. How to make sure that hospitals has enough supply to help 100 wounded during a week, at least. So we teach them how to do this. Also, we figure out that doctors, medical personnel is getting burned out. So if we come to the situations that we lose a doctor of, let's say, anesthesiologist somewhere from the frontline hospital, that means that hospital is not able to provide surgeries. So we had to start running psychological assistance to medical personnel in the frontline hospitals, and we did it for more than a year. This included providing them rooms for the psychological decompression and hotline for the doctors and medical nurses who can call and get assistance from the psychologists. Additionally to that, we have project called SMUGA. This is psychological assistance for kids and for family with children. We started this program with the locations that were deoccupied, where patients were experiencing severe trauma after their war experience, and we had rooms for psychological assistance where families with kids could come and get psychological help. And additionally, we started training psychologists, because we need to, this project should be not just sustainable, but it should be scalable. And it's very important for us that psychologists in other locations can go and assist the patients. And we were running, we are continuing to do running trainings for psychologists. And we have about 1,000 psychologists being trained during this over 2 years of this project. We're looking for adding additional services, and we are in touch with health cluster in Ukraine, which is a WHO, it's a World Health Organization, and we are planning with them to be included to the additional training sessions for a wider population to provide psychological assistance. We have a project called Wounded Warrior. This is help to our veterans who've been severely traumatized at the war, usually those people who had amputations. And if there is a need for prosthetics, which is not available in Ukraine, we know that Ukraine has a state program that allows doing prosthetics in Ukraine, but sometimes some cases are very complicated. And for those patients, we are helping to find locations outside of Ukraine. Usually this is in the United States. And we are bringing patients here for prosthetics. And we have a group of very dedicated volunteers here in the United States who are helping them with translation, all kind of accommodation, we have people who are cooking for them, bringing food for soldiers, taking them out, taking them to the museum, theaters, to make their life much easier and to make them sure that they are feeling involved in the society. Because what those people feel now, it's not just like when they lose their limb, it's a huge trauma for them. They have to be have to feel that the society is accepting them back. And that's what we are as a team trying to make them feel being involved in all kind of social processes and being accommodated. We had a very interesting project that we were running for just 3 months, but we wanted to see the results, how it works. We did it in Ukraine. So we were working with one of the hospitals in Kyiv that had patients who with amputations. And while patients were still in the hospital, but if doctors cleared them for physical activities for the swimming pools, we took them to the pool. And we had over 40 patients during 3 months who were taken to the swimming pool to swim. And some of the people, they never swam before the amputations. Some of them who were able to do this before, now they had a new conditions of their body and they had to learn how to balance with their new conditions. And we were running competitions, and the soldiers participated, and the idea was to swim a mile, and they were able to do in up to 15 lessons of the swimming. They were able to do so, and we saw that their social, their psychological condition was significantly increased. It was much better than prior to these trainings. And we also saw that the time for recovery was shortened significantly, that the number of complications also decreased. So the early rehabilitation, the physical rehabilitation is really helps to get healthier and get well as bad soon. And a peer-to-peer support that they provided to each other, being in one group, also showed tremendous results, and people felt that they have they're in the same team, they experience the same problem, and they were trying to potentially they performed, each of them performed better if they would be being alone. And this is a great result, and that's what we see, that society can do a lot by supporting our soldiers. And this is not just what a big organization can do. This is something that each of us can do. Just go, support, and talk to them, help them, show them that they are accepted in the society. And I'm pretty sure that each of us, each of you, can join this effort and do everything for our defenders in Ukraine. Maryna, maybe what?
You really thank you very, very
Yeah.
much for both of you for very, very important and presentation that basically puts on a focus on what is going on, and what you have done is just amazing. I'm very, very impressed. Basically, we have been working mainly with the United Nations, so our focus is a little different. But we also have many students in the Ukraine, and Susie will be asking you the questions from Ukraine, and then you will have to take some from, if we have time, we'll take some from the audience. So again, I was extremely impressed by your presentations, and congratulations. That is wonderful what
Thank you so
you're
much.
doing. Over to you, Susie.
Thank you, Dr. Durbach, and thank you both for very interesting presentations. As Dr. Durbach mentioned, we have a lot of questions from our students who are actually based in Ukraine, so looking forward to the dialogue. The first question I think maybe both of you can answer is, what skills or traits do you think are most important for success in your field? So as the students are thinking about developing their skills, which ones do you think are most important?
So this is a great question, Susie, and I will start answering this. We as a team grew as professional nonprofit organization since the beginning of full-scale invasion. Before that, all of us and most of us still have a profession. I'm, for example, a professor of neurobiology at Georgetown University. So nonprofit world was something that I was just helping organization at some point as a volunteer in 2014, then becoming a board member, again, at that time of a small organization. And then in 2019, I was elected as the president, and I remain the president until now. What are the skills that are required? I think the number one thing for any nonprofit if you join a nonprofit organization is believing in the mission. So I can tell you that all members of our team are very passionate about what's going on in Ukraine. And this is number one, that you, as a nonprofit professional, you join organization that you believe the mission, right? And you can join it at a different capacity. There are different positions that will require different skills. We have program and project managers. Of course, you will need a special training in business world and nonprofit world to have the skills to manage a project as one can do. If you, of course, any nonprofit as in business world will have an accounting team. Those are different set of skills, and they're transferable between nonprofit world and the business world. So everything that goes in business world will be very similar in nonprofit, except, of course, the nonprofit organization is not making any money compared to the business, but actually sending money to support their mission and their goals. For us, it's in Ukraine. For others, it would be, again, different initiatives that people really feel passionate about and want to change the world to make it a better place, but also invest donors' money into the programs to make the most impactful social changes that will help society and communities, whether it's in the US or worldwide. So the skill sets will be different. But again, the number one is being passionate about the work that you do. Anna, would you like to add anything to it?
I would just add that, Maryna, you said absolutely great. I would just say that you just try to be open-minded and follow like changes, like follow the news, follow the changes, what's going on. Try to accept and react appropriately to everything that's happening, and continue to learn, because skills and knowledge that will always help. And I was like, you never know where in what conditions you will be able to use them. But my personal experience shows that something that I learned in public health, thinking that I would never use in my other life, professional life, turned out to be now like a huge part of my everyday work and something that I'm really passionate about. So I would say just be open-minded.
Thank you. Very helpful advice. The next question from the audience is, what challenges do you find or face most often, and how do you manage to overcome them? I know it's a tough question, but if either of you have perspective on it.
Sure. So I'll start, and then Anna can add. So the challenges for a nonprofit organization are, again, similar as business. We want to have a stable funding, right? So that we can help people as much as we want, and even grow that help bigger if we can. So funding is always an issue. So we work hard to attract, first of all, maintain donors and sponsors, attract new ones, and continue to advocate for Ukraine. So the second challenge is for us as an organization, for example, and for many others, to keep raising awareness about the events in Ukraine. And as I said, it's challenging because there are so many other things that are happening in the world that sometimes take away from the situation in Ukraine. And for us, it's keeping that dialogue open and continue to tell people not only what's going on in Ukraine in terms of the war, but I think the focus now for many of us is to show how beautiful, talented, and innovative Ukrainian people are. And this is another thing that anyone can help do, right? It's just you talk to your friends, it's not, or your people that you know abroad. It's not only we talk about the devastation, the loss, the tragedy of the war and how brutal it is to us, but also about the resilience and how Ukrainian people, even in this very hard situation, and really for many reasons, it's really devastating to see what's happening in Ukraine. But regardless, Ukrainian people are still going to theaters. We just welcomed National Ballet of Ukraine here in Washington, D.C. They're on tour, right? And there was the audience, there was a full, basically it was sold out. It was, not an empty seat, and people really, lots of Americans came. They were really interested to see Ukrainian ballet. Same thing for Ukrainian culture, arts, movies. This is where we're also going to be collaborating with the Harvard University to publish and translate Ukrainian books, translate and publish Ukrainian books to show that Ukrainian literature, as people know, Russian literature, we have unique literature as well, and we want to share it with the world. So basically, what I'm saying is that we want to not only, so this is challenging, of course, but what we want to do is show the world that besides the war that's happening, Ukraine is much more than just that.
Thank you. Anna, would you like to add anything, or we can go to the next question?
Well, there are a lot of challenges as everywhere, like in your real life. We are dealing with everything. We are dealing with legislation, both American and Ukrainian. We are dealing with which changes, like unpredictable, especially in Ukraine. You do something and like next day it's coming out something new and you have to adjust. We are dealing with people and teams, especially now when we know that men are being mobilized and you have team working and then somebody is taken from your team. This is something that you also have to encounter, and that you need to substitute with someone else who is well-trained and prepared and can quickly jump in and start filling the gaps. So there are a lot of challenges, but if you are passionate about and you are interested and you are organized systemically, these are all possible to overcome.
Thank you. And what motivates you or keeps you going during difficult periods?
I think for all of us, United Help Ukraine, the answer will be Ukrainian people. Those people who, well, first of all, those who remain in Ukraine, Ukrainian defenders who we talk to every day, Ukrainian doctors, teachers, people who work hard to keep going, right? And every time you hear a story of another defender or a doctor or you name it, even children who are going to school, we see them going to bomb shelters and learning there, right? That's an inspiration for us, and that what keeps us going. We said, we're doing a lot, we can do more, because look at them under bombs, under attacks and constant sirens. People still go to work and do a lot. And for me personally, my team inspires me and really motivates me to move forward, because everyone on the team is very driven, hardworking, and passionate about our mission. So anytime I want to take a break, I see the team moving forward, and I said, well, I can't take a break right now. I need to move with the team. And it's very important to have that support and motivation from the team that you build.
You. And how can the students on the line or anyone else watching, as we'll publish this on the site, how can they contribute to your cause?
And do you want to also chime in on the motivation or
Yeah.
anything?
No, it's fine.
So in terms of contributing, there are many ways you can contribute in the US and also in Ukraine or worldwide. So spread the news, talk about Ukraine, support organizations, ours and others who provide much needed aid. Subscribe to our page, any other organization that you know, share their message, promote their work. And then also in Ukraine, there are so many possibilities. We just had a wounded warrior. He is a double amputee who ran the 10K marathon on his prosthetic devices. And he goes to the hospitals in Ukraine every week, once a week or more. And he goes to the hospital with just a box of oranges or fruit or whatever. And he just goes to each room, talks to people, he talks to wounded there who are in the hospital. And that's the easiest thing anyone can do in Ukraine right now. Just grab, a box of oranges or apples, go to the hospital, support those who are in need right now. And again, it's not gonna, even without the box of oranges, you can go to the hospital and talk to people, support them. It's important. You see a wounded in the street, you come and say thank you for your service. And that really brings up a lot of emotions in them. We've seen it with the group of the wounded who just came, but we also see it when we have people coming here to the US that we bring for treatment and rehabilitation, prosthetics. It makes a difference in their lives, and that's very easy thing. Besides, of course, supporting, donating, spreading the word, just those connections are super important. And I will give you one more example how it's important is that we were at the Ocean of Else, Okean Else concert last night. And there was, with us, there was a wounded. He's on the wheelchair. He has a leg amputated, and he's receiving prosthetics. And he was very emotional at the end of the concert. He was in tears, and the lead singer, Slavik Vakarchuk, came to him, gave him a hug at the end of the concert. And you should have seen his face light up, and it was such a touching moment for them to hug. And it was just, I think it brought tears to all of us, just seeing how just that hug really made emotional connection, and that difference in his, like, he was really, as he was very emotional and crying, because that song brought up memories of his brothers who were killed. And that was a tiny thing, but really it made a difference in his life.
Yeah. And I would just add a little bit about, like, in Ukraine, all people are suffering from all this stress and shellings and everything. So even taking care about yourself, about your health, about your mental health, and about your families and close friends is already a huge impact. So just don't afraid to talk to someone about your internal problems, or asking people how you can be helpful to them. this already helps a lot. We have tons of stories, and you will see that life changes.
Thank you. Very powerful. The next question is, how do you see the future development of UHU, and how does the organization plan to expand or maybe change its scope and focus to support Ukraine even more?
So this is a great question. Thank you for whoever asked that. It's also a big question for any organization where the organization is going in the future. And what we see, the 4 pillars will pretty much stay unchanged. No, not unchanged, but the mission will be still there to support Ukrainian defenders until the war is over. And then, of course, support the veterans with everything they need for their rehabilitation and treatment. Medical aid, again, will remain one of the largest programs for us, including psychological assistance, because we do understand that the war did not leave anyone untouched. And we know that a lot of people in Ukraine will suffer from some kind of psychological problem in the future, unfortunately, including children. And that's the thing that they will live throughout their life. So they will need that support. And that's what I know Unite Help Ukraine is doing now, but also I know that we will be expanding in the mental health our mental health initiatives in Ukraine, and working. So right now we work with children and families, but also with veterans, and we'll definitely be expanding our outreach in this regard. In terms of humanitarian aid, we look into sustainable, as I said, projects, and of course for us, we will be expanding our reconstruction and rebuild programs. We will be also investing in green energy and helping infrastructure, because we know how severely bombed a lot of places were, and that Ukraine lost 40+% of the infrastructure locations and grids. So that's another thing where we're going to be going as an organization. So, and we will see more needs, right? So for sure. And what the good thing about organizations like ours, diaspora-based organizations, compared to some larger organizations, international organizations, that what Anna was referring at the beginning is like, you want to be adaptable, right? And in person, as a professional, but also as an organization. And it gives us, again, flexibility to respond to the needs, strategically project what will be needed, but also respond to some current needs of Ukrainian people.
So, Anna, would you like to add anything?
We all hope that the war will over soon. And of course, as soon as it stops, our programs will be more focused on rebuilding Ukraine, reconstruction, and bringing people back to normal social life. Until that, this is mostly emergency response and hope and advocacy for Ukraine.
Thank you. How do you assess the international community's awareness of Ukraine's needs, and how can nonprofit organizations influence the level of awareness?
This is a good question, and it's also a hard one because I know a lot of organizations are doing quite a bit to influence the larger international organizations. I will tell you that they do know the needs. In most cases, we've just had a conversation with USAID. And also other large platforms such as DMAC, so Diaspora Emergency Responses Organization, and other bigger international platforms such as, for example, IOM. They are assessing the needs constantly. And then there is a lot of large international organizations have their teams working on assessing the situation in Ukraine. It might seem that they're not responding. The issue is that they're responding, but much slower. And one can also say that they're responding slower, so the need might not be there, right, at the time when they respond. So for larger organizations, they're less responsive in terms of emergency responses. However, they do and will invest heavily into the structural changes in Ukraine. That's what they're looking for. To build more systems that will be sustainable and will help support people in different areas and with different things for longer term.
Thank you. And anything to add there?
Well, we like as Maryna said, we have a lot of organizations who assess, and like we are working with the WHO, World Health Organization for health, right? They are gathering information. Of course, they are spreading, and this is the organization that has information worldwide about every country, and they have about Ukraine. But the needs in Ukraine are so huge. So, and that's why it can be not really felt on every exact level, just because we need much more that we are doing right now. So there is always a place to put our efforts.
Thank you. And Anna, this question came in for you. Given your dual role as a researcher, but then also working with UHU, how do you balance these responsibilities, and what kind of synergies have you found between the scientific research you're doing and your humanitarian work?
Well, it's a hard question.
Yeah.
Since the full-scale invasion, UHU is not a work, it's a life. So that we do every time, like every day, including weekends, vacation, wherever that we are focused on. And the other one is a job that you have hours to work on, and so you do what you need, and that's it. But the rest of your time, efforts, energy goes to United Help Ukraine.
And that's for all of us who have second jobs, it's a hard balance to maintain. And I know for many of us, again, in 2022, things have changed very dramatically. So many people actually, I know a lot of people who left their jobs to work on humanitarian projects and within our organization and others, because they feel that right now Ukraine needs their time, right? And of course, we all hope that the war ends soon so we can return or semi-return, if possible, to those professions that we had as a career before the full-scale invasion started.
Completely agree. And I know, Maryna, also you're a professor and also have done a lot of work with the organization. How have you kind of tried to achieve a bit of balance in all the chaos that's happening?
Yeah, this is tough. And for me, when I go lecture and I'm with the students, this is my time off. This is when my mind goes somewhere else, and I taught a couple of classes that my colleagues said, especially in 2022, they were saying, we can help you, we'll take it away from, we'll substitute for you. And I said, no, those 2 hours I'm actually relaxing, and this is my time off, and this is my break from every day. Like Anna said, United Help Ukraine and helping Ukrainian people is now our lifestyle. We cannot live without it, at least right now, knowing that people are dying every day. It's impossible for us to take our minds off it and just do something else. But for a very short period of time when I'm with the students, that's what's happening. The research, unfortunately for me, has been very slow, but I continue to teach. But research, which I love to do, is something that I just don't have time. So the balance, it's sometimes, of course, United Help Ukraine wins, and then Ukraine wins, and the balance is shifted. Another thing is Anna has 3 kids, triplets. I have 2 children, and it's another responsibility, our families. And what Anna was saying is you still want to spend time with your family because that's important. And this is, again, something for us as well to balance our family lives.
Well, it's impressive that, as also a female, just hearing all that you're able to accomplish and navigate during such difficult times, but also kind of taking a very constructive and positive route with your work and social activities. So really appreciate the time and your responses to the questions. I'll turn back to Dr. Durbach to close out.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you all for the questions. Those were really interesting questions, and I hope we were able to answer them.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Susie, for moderating. And I will continue asking a couple of questions that came in from the students. Basically, one question is very important to us because one of the things that we do, since these webinars are attended by all our students in Ukraine, and I usually tell them that it is very important to send the messages to YouTube and all the other communication media so that they are aware of what's going on. So this is a question from one of the students. What is the main message to be broadcast to the international community regarding support for Ukraine? And how do you feel that it can be accomplished globally? So that's for both of you.
This is a hard question. That's what we try to do as an organization, also as a part of coalition. And I think the message for the global community is to continue supporting Ukraine in so many ways that a global community can. And as I said, everyone can do something, right? So for global community, the message is we want to continue supporting Ukraine until the war and after the war. And we want to help Ukraine have peace on their own terms. And what that peace looks like, again, it's up to Ukrainian people, but for the world is one message: we must continue to support Ukraine. How to achieve it, that's a more challenging question. And again, it is achieved through a lot of advocacy work, which we continue to talk to everyone here in the US, in Washington, D.C. region. We continue to talk to the governments, and people globally can do the same. Advocacy work is very important, and here, especially here in the US, because representatives do hear from their constituents. And when we have people going to their offices every week saying, right now you have this bill on the table, you must sign it. People calling, people writing, it works. So we have to continue doing this, right? So we can't stop for a day, we can't stop for an hour, we have to keep pushing, keep doing to support. Otherwise, and that's what, when I went to Ukraine, and Anna will say the same, when you talk to Ukrainians in Ukraine, people say two things. One, thank you for your support. Without the support of US people and governments, it will be very hard for Ukraine to survive the first year of full-scale invasion, and of course, surviving now almost 3 years after. And the second one is, please continue supporting us. Without your support, we won't be able to win.
That's absolutely true. And Anna, what is your perspective on that?
Well, I completely agree with Maryna. It's so what we always try to do is to keeping attention on Ukraine as much as we can. So the diaspora in the United States is pretty active, even if it's not seen. But we have a lot of groups and chats, and if any legislation should come out and there is a delay, there is always be a messages spread out between people saying, here is a message, here is a phone number, please call and say this to your representative. Push and push. And that's what we are doing every time we have some kind of new law that we need to get for Ukraine. That's you will always see.
The next question is, to what extent can the students in Ukraine be helpful in helping you with your key challenges?
So for students in Ukraine, number one goal is to learn. learn English, learn your profession.
One moment. All of the students that receive scholarships from my foundation have to know English in order for me to support them. So all of them are fluent in English.
Terrific.
So you can talk to them from that perspective because
Wonderful.
they can actually reach the world. but maybe you can give them some specific directions of what they can do in order to be more effective than what they are.
Of course. So I think learning is one of the key things that the students can do right now. It's not only English, but also your profession, and then getting the skills that will advance you in your career. And that's not just for organization. I think you need to look at the future of Ukraine and what you can do as an individual in your field. I'm as a scientist, I can have collaborations with Ukrainian scientists and support Ukrainian science and, for example, neurobiology. And that's what I do with my colleagues in Kyiv Medical University. If you are IT person, you can support, again, you can have your own business, you can make money and support any initiatives that you want, social initiatives that you want. So I think the key is for any individual to learn and become what you want to become, be successful, and your economic growth, your personal growth and career growth will definitely influence and put into this big picture for Ukraine to be an independent, prosperous country. So every person can do as much, and then also continue to supporting social causes, right? So you can, in any world, in the business world, any world, you can certainly help social causes with your talents, with your money, and with your again, with your passion. So for in terms of helping organization, as I said, subscribe, raise awareness, talk about initiatives, think about how your talents can be useful. Oftentimes, I'll just give you a couple of examples and why it's important to be the best in your profession. We have volunteers who are, for example, writers. We have professional writers who were, they had their columns in Washington Post and other big journals and magazines and newspapers. They're editing our texts now. They come and volunteer for us. They write texts, they write letters. So another example would be, we had a company, it's the largest consulting company in the world, Deloitte. It's called Deloitte, and this largest consulting company, their office in Washington, D.C. also came to us and said, we want to volunteer, but also can help you with our professional consulting services. And again, what I'm saying is that you will help from the position of you being an exceptionally successful in your career. So then you can help even more. For Deloitte, they did just funny packing boxes. One day, they had an impact day. They just packed boxes for bomb shelters for us with children's toys. And then they also provided very high level consulting services for our marketing and fundraising teams, because they're good at this. This is what they're best at. So from a little thing that you can do as a volunteer, packing boxes, or cleaning the rubble, or you name it, right, or helping wounded, you can also be more efficient and more impactful with your knowledge and your talents.
Thank you, Maryna. That is absolutely excellent, very clear perspectives. And Anna?
I would just say very simply, sometimes you want to do something here and now just to feel your influence. So we had volunteers who come into our warehouse and helping packing first aid kits for the soldiers. So this option is always available as well. So there is a lot of different opportunities to volunteer and try to help the society of defenders, children, however. So just be in touch, and we will definitely can do something together.
Thank you. And let me see, questions. Hold on once. Thanks for the webinar. My questions are, what is the main message that we can broadcast to the international community about the struggle that we are receiving and that we have to cope with? And the second question is, can you tell us about the human dynamics and how it has changed from the beginning of 2022 in Ukraine?
So the first question is for Ukrainians to have a message, right, to the international community and
Yes.
show their suffering.
That's
And so the first question is, people are showing what Ukrainians are going through with their documentaries. There are a couple of them, including the one that just received an Oscar, showing how difficult and brutal the life in the war zone is, not just the war zone in the front line, next to front lines, but everywhere else. And I think this is it's done, it's portrayed, and people understand that suffering. People see it, unfortunately, and they I will tell you again how the world was appalled to see that the largest children's hospital, Ahmadid, was bombed back in July, and there was a huge response from the community trying to raise funds and help the children. So the image is there, and what I was saying at the beginning when we talked about raising awareness initiative is, it's one thing is we do show it's the contrast, right? We want to show, and we do that, how life was before the war, how people loved their country and they were successful. They had businesses, they had their homes. No one wanted to leave the country, right? And then the war started, and then of course a lot of people left because they fear for their children, they fear for their lives. And this is the contrast that we want to continue to show. Beautiful Ukraine before the war, people having their great lives and being happy in their own country, and now a lot of them are either being displaced or they're refugees, and other people are still in Ukraine suffering from bombs, shellings, and everyday attacks. So that's the first question. So showing the contrast before and after of how your life changed will be very important. And then the second question about human dynamics. People are tired, right? So people, I mean, here in the US, we see it in our team. We see when we go to Ukraine, we talk to people in Ukraine, and also those who are refugees in other countries. They're very tired of this war. They don't know when it's going to end. It's very hard for them to hear, and every day we hear about people dying and a lot of loved ones who we lost for this war. So dynamics are changing in the way that people are now, they're definitely less responsive, right? So they're desensitized, so I would say. And and psychologically, again, it's very hard psychologically to sustain that level of stress for the past 3 years, and we continue to do so. So what Anna was saying, and I totally agree with her statement, is that we also need to take care of ourselves, right? We need to understand our needs as humans, that it's very hard to be in that stress and constant fight or flight mode. It's not healthy, but but in Ukraine, there's no other way, right? They can't just stop the bombings, with the remote control or shelling. So they have to endure that and continue and find ways to express themselves, and also find time and find ways to enjoy their life. And that's very important.
Thank you. That's really very important message. We try to do that on our side, but I think that it's very important that it will be more broadcast in Ukraine. And right now, it's so difficult to do anything there that it is unconscionable. And Anna, do you have any other point?
I would just probably add that, maybe like summarize these two questions, that with the war, a lot of people flee the country, and a lot of people, unfortunately, we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of professionals. So what we need now, we need to educate new population, new people to cover the gaps. So we need to bring a lot of educational programs to the country. We need to bring a lot of new courses to existing universities or to people who already have any professions, so they can acquire new ones and help cover what's missing now and what you are all doing. And please continue, because that's will, and we need to broadcast it to people in Ukraine, and we need to understand that this is a huge shift in our professional lives that we need to be focused on.
Thank you very, very much, both Maryna and Anna, for a brilliant, very informative, and very valuable presentation. We are very grateful that you were able to be with us, and I wish you a very, very good week, a wonderful holiday, and continuing efforts for the benefit of Ukraine. Have a good week. Bye-bye.